Hey YouTube, today we're going to talk about a fragrance from a little company, um, Rogue Perfumery, uh, run by Manny something or other. I don't remember his last name. Um, but and I don't have a bottle, so but I did get samples and I've worn it. I had, you know, probably 8 milliliters of decant of this. I've probably gone through 12 milliliters of it. I've worn it. You can see the color of that. I mean, that's dried out some, but it didn't look like that to begin with. It's oxidized because it's a junky little lipstick twist up. That's the little thing he sent with it. That was the card. I just kind of taped it to this thing and put it in here. But so the question, Mousse Illuminee. I assume that means luminescent moss, because this is an oak moss fragrance. So Rogue doesn't conform to IFRA, so he puts oak moss in all of his fragrances, or not all of them, but whatever they're called for, whenever it's called for. He basically, I think it says fragrance destroys art in there, and so he makes his own fragrances with oak moss and tree moss in it. So what does it smell like? It smells like oak moss goodness. It smells great. It's one of those that brings a smile to my face. It smells like when I was a kid, so we're talking 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, in the late 80s, I remember smelling soap vividly. This brings me back to a certain soap on a rope that I used to have that had like a little wheel on it, steering wheel from a ship. So there's obviously oak moss in that soap. And I smelled that when I smell this, I smell that. You know, it just it's mossy and thick, and it lasts a long time. Blending is adequate. It's pretty chunky. So you're looking at a fragrance. When you get into a lot of these artisanal fragrances, a lot of times you're not going to get a French built fragrance. It's not going to be as built. Though Manny does a good job and he's been studying his craft for a long time, it's not a Kirkjan build or something like that where it's built. But what you are going to get, that doesn't mean it's not. Just because somebody is the best technical painter out there doesn't mean that their painting is the best. There's an eye for what you want the thing to smell like, and a quality of materials that are used. And these quality of materials is just a material that you can't get on the shelves. So, and it just smells amazing. It's like I said, it's a bit chunky, but it's a fragrance that's supposed to be. It's a big chunk of moss sitting out there in a forest. It's very dewy and wet and thick. If you're looking for a light, airy green fragrance, this is not that. This is something that's very chewy and very viscous. It's going to, it's going to be very present. But it seems like it's a high quality, and is one that I think a lot of people owe it to themselves. If you are into fragrances and you're smelling everything on the shelf, to smell what this smells like and smell what a full-bodied fragrances, what full-bodied fragrances used to smell like. If you go down the vintage rabbit hole, you'll smell more of this kind of thing. But this is the body that people talk about was stripped out of fragrances when Ifra took over. That is present here. And this is really an homage to that. So this is really just in your facing that, and the construction is really there to highlight what it is that is missing from other things, it seems like. And that's why I keep this sample around, and obviously I have very little left. I think there's probably what one spray left in there, and I probably won't spray it. I'll just sit there and smell the tubing until it dies. And it smells really good. I'm really happy to have worn it, and I recommend everybody take a look at it if you're into fragrances. So, Mousse Illuminee by Rouge Perfumery.